I'm worried about you guys. It seems like you're drifting apart from each other. Is everything okay with you? The first to voice concern was my daughter, Rachel. I responded as a father should, even though Rachel was already 21. I reassured her that everything was fine between us. But at the same time, gears started to turn slowly in my mind. Was everything really fine? I trusted my wife, Moira, with my life. We had been together for 23 years, but Rachel was right, something was off. Not everything had been perfect, but it was damn good. However, since Rachel left home, it seemed like Moira and I had been growing apart. I tried a lot, suggesting dates, trips, and spending time together. The typical response to my efforts was, "That sounds wonderful, Ian, but I'll be busy for the next few weeks, so let's do it next month." Moira seemed more interested in her friends, volunteer work, and hobbies. She was out for lunch almost every day and not with me. And if even Rachel noticed it, then things must be worse than I thought. Moira is an attractive woman with a great sense of style and a warm, inviting personality. I'm doing well myself, a decent job and income, staying in good physical shape as I approach 50. I recalled happier times, including the day of our wedding when I felt like the happiest man on earth. Everything went perfectly, although the best man's speech was a bit more awkward than I would have liked, with references to a rather wild bachelor party, not that I remembered much of it anyway. One thing about Moira's bachelorette party was a little strange. Along with all the girls, her best friend Vince Hurst also attended. I didn't give it much thought since they were very close friends. I even wondered if he might be gay because I had never seen him with a girl, but I also never saw him with any guys either. They often met up for drinks or meals and I felt a bit uncomfortable about it, so I asked Moira about their relationship. She assured me that there had never been and never would be any romantic element in their friendship. I completely believed her. Moira simply couldn't lie. She was proud of her openness and honesty. After the wedding, we moved to another city for better job opportunities and everything worked out well. We both made new circles of friends and I wasn't upset that Moira would see Vince less often, though they continued to stay in touch. We began our family life and almost 2 years later, we had our first and, as it turned out, only daughter, Rachel. Moira easily adapted to her role as a caring mother and we couldn't have been happier. Years later, when Rachel moved in with her friends, Vince got a job closer to our home. Moira had lost touch with some of her old friends and seemed eager to rekindle her friendship with Vince. There were lunches, drinks, and sharing updates about each other's lives. This brought me back to Rachel's earlier remark. She was right, we seemed to be drifting apart. I felt a little neglected, which wasn't helped by the fact that we both missed Rachel. Adding to my discomfort were Moira's social media posts with Vince, along with the comments asking if he was her husband. The party for Moira's 47th birthday at our home only deepened my feelings. She was constantly by Vince's side, laughing and joking with their mutual friends. Anyone who didn't know better would have thought they were a married couple. That's when our longtime neighbor and good friend, Linda, caught me off guard. "Ian, are you okay? You seem a bit out of sorts." I tried to brush it off, but she knew me well and pressed on until I shared my concerns. "You and Moira are okay, right? I know Vince is a good friend and it's possible to have friends of the opposite sex. If you think about it, it's just like you and me." "I don't know, Linda. I feel like if we spent as much time together as those two do, we'd develop deeper feelings and who knows where that would lead." I guess that Linda must have said something to Moira because a little while later, she came up to me. "What did you say to Linda and what's this nonsense about you feeling ignored?" "Just that my wife hasn't spoken to me all evening, but she's had time for everyone else. We're hosting guests, Ian, and I have to make sure I greet everyone who came. Except you didn't do that. You haven't been able to tear yourself away from Vince." I saw fury in her eyes. "What are you talking about? You're being ridiculous and petty. We're just friends and the fact that he's a man doesn't matter." "Really? You two seem awfully wrapped up in each other, and I'm curious about what else is going on." "Nothing else is going on and you need to get a grip on yourself." She took a deep breath and stormed off. Damn, I felt terrible. It was her birthday and here I was starting a fight. We didn't talk for the rest of the evening and over the following week, things didn't improve. I tried to apologize but failed and, of course, there was no remorse from Moira's side. When we finally did talk, it didn't go well. She announced that Vince wanted her to go on a short weekend trip with him. I wondered if they were planning this to test me and see how I'd react. The fact that this even crossed my mind made me realize the trouble we were in. Once trust is lost, it's hard, if not impossible, to regain. "And you actually want to go? Seriously? Considering where we are right now, you think this is the best option? We're friends and we get along really well. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just a trip and I could use a break." "Right, I've suggested plenty of trips and you flat out refused, but for him you somehow found the time." So where and when exactly do you need a break from us? Moira lowered her eyes. It's a last-minute deal for the next weekend to Rome. Damn, so I guess I can assume you've already agreed to go and Rome? The place we've been planning to visit for years, but you could never find the time. Charming. Moira tried to soften her tone. Listen, I know this isn't ideal, Ian, but it's only for a few days. There's nothing sexual or romantic about it. I'm not your property and you can't tell me who I can be friends with. I can't and don't want to control you, but yes, I'm jealous when he gets so much of your time and energy. You have an emotional relationship with him. He already gets the best of you, dates and now trips too. These aren't dates and it's not like that. I love you, not Vince. Really? It sure doesn't seem that way. Can I assume you talked to him about us, sharing details about our relationship? This threw her off. Sometimes he helps me see things from your perspective and think things through. Yeah, and that works out great, doesn't it? I doubt we see things the same way and you've become more distant from me than ever. Do you talk about our sex life with him? Not really, just in bits and pieces. Come on, Moira, even you must realize that's personal and you absolutely shouldn't be discussing it with him. You share more with him than with me and it sounds like you're married to him, not me. Oh, stop, Ian, that's not true. I'm your wife, but I can't let him down right now. You're still going to go, the decision's already been made without me. Since when did my opinion stop mattering? You don't value it, you only value your own and Vince's. As the trip got closer, we drifted further apart. I got the feeling that Moira regretted something but wasn't willing to back down. I was glad to be at work when she left on Friday morning. A farewell text arrived, I love you and I cherish you. I'll be back before you even notice. I'll call you later. I thought about going to a bar and getting drunk or heading to my sister Janice's place. We often argue, but she's always on my side when it matters and she would gladly berate Moira if she thought it would help me. In the end, I did neither. I decided to spend a quiet night at home, reflecting on my marriage. I needed to make some decisions. I didn't want things to continue like this. That evening, she called me and although I seriously considered not picking up, I answered neutrally. Hey. Hi, love. We made it safely and the hotel is beautiful. I just wanted to check in with you. Yeah, thanks for calling. At least I know you're safe. We toured the Colosseum today and tonight we're going to the Trevi Fountain and the Spanish Steps. It's really wonderful. Sounds tempting, all those places we wanted to see and talked about visiting. I'll toss a coin in the Trevi and wish to come back with you. You'd love it here. It won't be the same, Moira. I wanted to discover all of this with you as a couple. Don't turn this into another argument, Ian. I'm sorry for how things have gone between us and I regret leaving like this. I can't stop thinking about you. And just to be clear again, there's nothing, we're not having sex. She said nothing as if she were speaking to a toddler. Well, you're in another country with another man, so there's definitely something. Moira shouted, ugh, you're impossible, and then the line went dead. I felt lonely and crushed, and on Saturday night, there was no call. Once again, the social media posts didn't help at all. Rome looked stunning. There were a few comments from relatives asking things like, where's Ian? And I noted the response, he went away for the weekend with friends. Rachel called. She had seen the social media posts but was still shocked when I confirmed that they were together in Rome. I told her about our conversations and how her mom had planned to go on the trip regardless. Rachel wanted to call her, but I insisted that she stay out of it. It's pointless. She thinks I'm the one at fault for being jealous. She claims she's doing nothing wrong and that I'm overreacting. Apparently, she believes that as long as they're not having sex, everything's fine. Well, maybe she's right, Dad. She's allowed to have friends, and trips with friends aren't that unusual. Maybe you're, just jealous. I tried to suppress my irritation. As I said before, Rachel, it's better if you don't get involved. There's a bigger issue here that neither you nor your mom are seeing. When Moira returned during Sunday afternoon tea, she tried to hug and kiss me. I didn't stop her, but it was weak and lacked enthusiasm. We tried to talk to each other, but it felt awkward with several false starts. I had never had to think before speaking to her, and I sensed she felt the same. I'm sorry I didn't call yesterday. My head's been spinning and I'm not used to us fighting. I missed you so much, but I had every right to go on this trip. I know we need to talk more to work things out. Do you mean talk, or just get me to see things your way? What if I took Linda with me on a weekend trip to Paris? That would be inappropriate. She's divorced. So what? Vince is single. That's different. She likes you. Are you saying Vince doesn't like you? Seeing her hesitation, I pressed on. Has he ever told you that he's in love with you? What? No. We've never considered anything like that. But you know he's in love with you, don't you? From the way he looks at you and how he hangs on your every word. Maybe there's something to that. It's one of the reasons why I can't let him down. Imagine having those feelings for someone all this time, knowing it will never be anything more. You can't have both of us, Moira, and if you keep him this close, it might stop him from moving on. He could have met an amazing Italian woman this weekend. And it's affecting us. What I feel is abandonment. Come on, Ian, we're both confident and independent people. We've never lived off each other. You know, I can't accept that the woman who should care about me more than anyone else seems to care more about her friend than me. Think about how much time and energy you put into us, aside from the daily routine, compared to what you do for Vince and your other friends. I was surprised when Vince knocked on my door and asked if he could come in. Moira's not here, Vince. She's at work. I know. I wanted to see you. I'm not surprised. After all, you're her confidant. I assume she tells you everything we discuss. She's my friend. You have nothing to worry about. If I were a woman, this wouldn't be an issue. I don't think that's true. Maybe it wouldn't seem as important, but whoever it is, if we're drifting apart and not sharing things with each other, it's always going to be a problem. So, tell me, what do you two talk about? Anything, everything, I suppose. So, you talk about your thoughts, ideas, plans, and hopes. Yes, all that and 1,000 other little things, mostly just random stuff. I paused, trying to process what I'd heard. That's exactly what I miss. Now we only talk about mundane things, the house, bills, family. I imagine you two have a good time together, going out for lunch and dinner. Well, yeah, we do, and I enjoy her company. Again, that must be nice. You know how many times I've suggested we go out for lunch, take trips, do romantic things. I've lost the person I used to share hopes and dreams with. You have a more meaningful relationship with her than I do. For God's sake, Ian, just talk to her, tell her how you feel. I know she loves you. I've tried. She thinks it's all about sex, that I'm jealous and trying to control her. None of this changes anything. I've lost her. Don't say that, Ian. Moira would be devastated. She truly loves you. Listen, I didn't realize it was this bad. I just thought you were being a jealous idiot. I can stop seeing her. I don't want to be the one causing problems. I frowned. That's a generous offer, considering you love her. You're offering what she's not willing to do. She chooses you every time. The truth is, you're a better friend to her than she is a wife to me. He mumbled something in response, but I'd had enough and walked him to the door. Oh, and Vince, don't come back again. Next time, I might not be so friendly. After dinner, Moira wanted to talk. Vince told me he came to see you. He scolded me, said that if he had known you'd be this upset, he wouldn't have suggested the trip. He admitted that he's been monopolizing my time. So, you shared all of our previous conversations with him, and then what? You met with him today so he could report back on how his visit went. Do you now see why I feel like a stranger in this relationship? Moira didn't seem to grasp the point and continued talking about Vince. When I said you get over it, Vince told me to pull my head out of my ass and that I need you. So you listen when he says the same thing I've been saying. Of course, I shouldn't be surprised by that. Moira went on. No one, including you, has the right to control me. I admit I've misplaced my priorities, but this is not about anything sexual. If I thought you had sex with him, you'd already be out the door. But even without sex, you still put him first. You're his best friend, not mine, and this relationship is hurting us. Listen, Moira, this is a genuine question. Why aren't you with him? You seem happier when you're together, and you barely pay attention to me. Before you left with him, everything revolved around what you and he needed. You hardly considered my feelings, and that's not love, it's a total lack of respect. I'm sorry. I love and respect you, but you're always fine. You're strong and reliable. That's not entirely true, Moira. I draw strength from our relationship. We're supposed to be a team, supporting each other. Here's a challenge for you, don't repeat this conversation to Vince. But he's going to ask. Oh, for God's sake, I give up. Try respecting our relationship and putting it first, not your friend. It shouldn't be that hard, Moira. There are 3 of us in this relationship and I'm a distant third. Do you enjoy having 2 men chasing after you while one of them, who's clearly in love with you, keeps clinging to you? Well, I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm going to visit Janice. It was nice staying with Janice. She's a good listener, and it felt like I hadn't had anyone to support or care for me in ages. Lately, it had been the complete opposite of my marriage. We have many shared memories and we both enjoy a drink, so it was a good way to unwind. It was nice to spend time with my nieces and nephews as they're on the verge of discovering the big world for themselves. Honestly, I felt better and more at peace than I had in a long time. Moira reached out almost every day asking when I would come back. She was upset and lost, though she tried not to show it. She regretted how things had spiraled out of control and was making an effort to see things from my perspective. Rachel was horrified when she found out I had moved out, and her mom had a meltdown on the phone, begging her to convince me to return. I arranged to have dinner with Rachel to try to explain everything. We went to a nice restaurant and, to our surprise, there were none other than Moira and Vince. We both saw them sitting in a booth, smiling and laughing. Just as I decided that we shouldn't run away, Rachel stormed over to their table. How could you? You call me crying on the phone, telling me how unreasonable Dad is and how miserable you are without him, and here you are, having a great time. Your priorities are crystal clear. Moira and Vince sat there, mouths agape, her neck turning a deep shade of purple with embarrassment, while I stood back, quietly amused. Rachel's tirade continued. I don't blame him for leaving you, you self-centered witch. She turned to Vince. And as for you, what the hell have you been doing trailing after a married woman for years like some lovesick puppy? Get your damn life together and move on. Can't you see she loves having you at her beck and call? You're nothing but an ego boost for her. She doesn't even have to sleep with you to keep you happy. Then she turned to me. We're leaving. I couldn't think of anything to add, so I turned and followed her out, leaving the stunned couple behind, along with the rest of the restaurant patrons. I knew this was coming. Rachel almost made it to the car before she broke down in tears, her legs giving way as I caught up and helped her into the passenger seat. It took a while before she could speak. I'm sorry, Dad, you were right. I can't believe she's like that. Yeah, unfortunately, she still doesn't get it. Moira looked at her daughter in shock. What do you mean your father went to Paris with Linda? Well, Mom, it just proves you were right all along. I guess Dad can have a female friend too, just like you. No, he can't. He said he was going to take me to Paris. Yeah, he mentioned something about offering that trip to you, but you were too busy. We're still married, he can't take that tramp on a romantic weekend. It's just wrong. Relax, Mom, it's not romantic. They're just friends. I know what you're trying to say, but this is a completely different situation. She'll latch on to him. Why do you even care, Mom? You've been pulling away from Dad for years, putting everyone else before him. That's not what I meant. What I meant is that Ian, he's always there without me needing to put in any effort. Well, you'd better start refocusing, and fast, because this trip may be platonic, but if you keep sitting around, there will be other women who'll be more than interested in Dad. Once again, her daughter stunned her so much that it didn't even occur to her to scold her for repeatedly using that F word. Linda agreed with our plan. In fact, it was Rachel's idea to do everything for real, and she asked Linda if she was on board. I confirmed that this was the last option before considering a divorce. We had a great time exploring the city, just as good friends. Linda was wonderful company, easygoing and relaxed. She reminded me of what I'd been missing with Moira. Throughout the trip, Linda was nothing but positive and enthusiastic. I was surprised when Moira met us at the airport. I expected an angry confrontation to follow. Instead, Moira greeted Linda politely, which caught both of us off guard. Linda, would you mind giving us a little time? Maybe grab a coffee, and afterward, I'll drive all of us home. Linda nodded, wished Moira luck, and walked away. We sat nervously in the nearly empty arrivals hall. I'm sorry, Ian. I never understood how you felt. I know I hurt your feelings and neglected you. I've missed you so much. At that moment, I couldn't think of what to say. Vince was devastated by Rachel's outburst. He asked me some tough questions and I didn't really like the answers. I craved his attention and encouraged it, and that doesn't reflect well on me as a person. It seems like our friendship is over. I shrugged. That doesn't fix us, Moira. You ignored me and prioritized someone else. I'm not even sure you like me anymore. Of course I do. I like you and I love you. I was about to respond that I loved her too, out of habit, but then it hit me that I wasn't sure anymore. That deep connection with someone special had been missing for a long time. Moira noticed my silence and her eyes widened. Please, give me another chance, Ian. We can't throw away 23 years of marriage because of a friendship. Not because of that, no. But we can if there's no respect, no trust, and if the person you love most in the world keeps putting other men above you. I know I messed up. I really do respect you completely, but I took you for granted, assuming you'd always be there. That trip to Rome was a mistake. We convinced ourselves that you were just jealous and trying to control me, so part of the reason for the trip was to prove that I'm independent and can make my own decisions. It's hard to call it independence when you're constantly attached to him. She seemed panicked and was trying to come up with a solid argument for us to stay together. Just give me 3 months. I'll prove it to you. It doesn't matter what I say right now because you don't trust me, and I get that. So let me prove it to you. Give me 3 months to show you, and if you're happy, then give me another 3 months after that. Her words came out in a flustered rush, but she seemed sincere. I reluctantly agreed, though without much hope. It was hard for me to believe she could change that drastically. At first, she succeeded. It was like we'd gone back 5 years in our marriage, focusing on each other and talking more. I thought the changes wouldn't last and we'd slip back into our old routine and relationship, but Moira proved me wrong. Eventually, I had to tell her to relax, things were going well and there was no need to force it. We were spending more time together, listening to each other, and sharing all our plans and dreams for retirement. She still sees Vince from time to time and I'm fine with it. That relationship has changed too. Moira told me she's trying to set him up with a couple of her single friends. Linda was happy for us and has remained a close friend and neighbor. Rachel is thrilled and believes it's thanks to her that we're back together, and I didn't argue much about it. Now we're on our 30th 3-month extension and we're still living together.